As always, Ted, kick us off. Who do you have as your winner of the weekend?
Woo, I had to go with my man Jordan Love. The cash is flowing in the NFL. Tough decisions having to be made out there. Now, I have to say, this is one of the most convoluted contracts I've ever seen. It's hard to even say like what the breakdown of it is, but 220 million over 4 years. And in year one, he's going to get a total of $79 million. NFL record $75 million signing bonus. Whew.
We wondered what the floor was going to be for Jordan Love. I put that floor at 50 a year. Turns out they're just going to make him the highest paid quarterback in the history of the league. There we go. It's just going to keep going up and up. Tua's contract was just under it. I think Dak Prescott is a lot of people think that he's up next. Dak has certainly accomplished a lot more than Jordan Love. Let me make myself clear. Thrilled for Jordan Love. Congratulations. But the guy just got $220 million with one season of production. So we'll see how it works out for the Green Bay Packers. It's either going to be a great contract if he plays at a high level, or it's going to be one where we go, ooh, probably shouldn't have given him that after 17 games.
Yeah, you know, there comes like the thing for me is I would say Jordan Love falls into the category of we're not sure yet what he can be. We don't know how high the mountain is. Dak is a different category. Like, have we already seen what he's capable of? And if you have, like, I'm not sitting here suggesting that Dallas should let him go into free agency, but I'm wondering, like, at what point do you say, like, we're going to marry ourselves to this moving forward and pay him? I don't know what's he going to get, 60 million a year, like 220 over four for Jordan Love. I mean, 240 for four for Dak Prescott. Like, I guess what I'm saying is it's a little bit different situation. The Packers are thinking, hey, he's going to grow and blossom into like our guy. It's just a different conversation with Dak because a lot of Cowboys fans feel like he's what's holding them back whenever they get into the postseason. Is that the truth? I don't know. That's up for debate, but I mean, it's interesting. He's had plenty of opportunity with a lot like I mean, has there been a guy that's played behind a better offensive line for as long as Dak Prescott has?
He's had some really good O lines. I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
How old's Dak Prescott? It feels like he's been part of our football lives for a very long time, right? As
Well,
the
he
quarterback for the Cowboys.
he was he was at Mississippi State. They were the first college football ranking. I guess that would have been 2014. He was his last year in college. So he's been in the NFL. This will be his what? This will be year 10.
He's 30 years old. That's it. Doesn't it seem like he should be older than that?
I think that sound yeah, yeah.
Jordan Love's 25, so he's 5 years younger than Dak.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're right. I think, and I keep bringing up the Jordan Love, he's only got one season of production. Back half of last year, that dude looked good.
Yeah.
Like the talent you can see, and the Green Bay Packers have a pretty good track record of knowing when they've got their guy at quarterback.
Yeah.
So you kind of just give them the benefit of the doubt there. You see the physical talent. He's not going to get worse. He's only going to get better. Should he be the highest paid player in the NFL? No, he shouldn't. But that just the market kind of dictates that
It ain't
with
gonna last for long.
yeah,
You
it's going to
know,
last a week
yeah.
or But yeah, I think the conversation with Dak is interesting. Like he's only 30. That's where it feels like he's 35, but he's only 30 years old. I mean, he's got what 7, 8, 9, 10 years left in him. So I understand thinking that maybe Dak is a completely finished product, but he also is not that old, and maybe he could get better as well. So that's where I don't know. It's a really interesting conversation comparing those
Not a
two guys.
it's not a fun conversation. And then you're also, if you're Dallas, CD Lamb is not going to be on your football team unless you make him the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL, right? I mean, isn't that what's going to, or right there with what Jefferson brought in?
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
okay, so you have, if that's what's going to happen, you have to get the most out of CD, and that kind of keeps you from like rolling the dice and bringing in somebody to try and bridge the gap or something. Like if you're going to pay CD, you have to pay Dak.
By the
You
way,
can't pay.
Dak
You
Dak
can't
Dak
pay.
turns
Yeah,
31 tomorrow. So he's 31.
31,
He's 31.
31. I mean, he's an interesting guy. Like if you take a Drew Brees or a Peyton Manning, a Tom Brady, those guys played for a really long time, but they never had to redefine themselves. They were they were pure passers the whole time. I mean, Drew Brees moved around a little bit, but he wasn't that guy. And Dak isn't necessarily a guy that's like scrambling around like crazy, but he I think he's going to have to redefine himself to be a pure passer to be able to have, you know, a good back half of his career to be on pace. So that's interesting. It's like what got him to where he is now, and is he going to be able to use that for the rest of his career? That's interesting to think about.
Remember when he snapped his leg and Romo was like, hopefully it's just a cramp? All time clip.
He's cramping. No, no,
All time
it's
clip.
like it looks like his calf is on the top of his leg, not the bottom of it. I don't think that's a cramp does that. That was
Well,
great.
Dak's going to get paid. I just don't know. We'll see how much it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot. But yeah,
He already
it's
he broke the bank his last contract, didn't he? Did he get like 50 on his last deal?
he's
It's crazy.
going to do it again.
Yep.
Who do you have as your loser of the weekend?
I didn't really know how to classify this, but I'm going to go with the house settlement that's been going on and kind of what has come out of that. It's been really interesting. The scholarship and roster limitations that I think are going to, it starts in the next school year, I believe, right? 25, 26 school year. And essentially, you've got full rosters across the board now and full scholarships for all of those rosters. So the amount of new scholarships coming on board is massive. And I think, at least it sounds like it right now, those new scholarships are going to be carved out of the revenue sharing. As we know, the what between 20 and 25 million dollars of revenue is going to be shared with the players moving forward. And I think a big carve out of that is going to be full funding scholarships for a lot of the other rosters outside of football, and football roster numbers are going to go up as well. I I think there's going to be winners in this, and I think there's going to be losers in this, and I'm not sure how it's going to shake up or shake out rather.
When you look at it just on the surface, it's like, hey, there is like over 750 new scholarship opportunities. But that while the school can offer a full scholarship to every athlete up to the roster limit in each sport, they are not required to distribute scholarships to each player.
Right.
So I was very, very excited. I want to make something very clear. I want as many kids to go to college for free and be athletes as possible. It's a tremendous experience that you and I were fortunate enough to have. Not having to worry about tuition, like all that stuff. It's a massive deal. But I'm just very skeptical that schools are going to add a bunch of scholarships in sports that are already losing them money. I think everyone, let's say everyone in the Power Four, the new scholarship limit, or I guess it's not a scholarship limit anymore, it's a roster limit. The new roster limit for football is 105. I think that everyone in the Power Four, or at least at the very least, everyone in the SEC and the Big Ten, are going to get 105 scholarship football players. Then you have to add, from what I understand, you're going to have to add scholarships in women's athletics to remain Title IX compliant. It'll be really interesting to see what women's athletics, like which programs each school adds those scholarships to, because I think it's going to be different. I don't think there's going to be just one model that every school falls in, because I think different sports mean different things in different areas of the country. But I don't know, man. I feel like everything in athletics is about money now. So I don't all of a sudden think that all of these sports across the board are just going to get these big scholarship bumps. Why would an athletic department do that?
I don't know. It is interesting. Like if you can carve out of that 20 million to fund a lot of those scholarships, I think they'll do that. But you also don't want to fall behind any, because there's going to be some schools that like that's going to go like straight to football for the most part, right? Football pays for everything. But another thing that I feel like is interesting, did they just destroy baseball? One of the things about college baseball is you have a bunch of really good players that go to junior college, that go to smaller schools, because the scholarship limit in baseball was so restrictive. You only have 11.7 scholarships on a baseball team. Now you've got 34. It went up by more than like it's grown huge, like 120 something percent or whatever that number is. So used to you couldn't get a scholarship to go play at Oklahoma. You go play maybe at Cali County, or you go, you know what I'm saying? I wonder what's going to happen there. And they did it previously. It wasn't a money issue. It was a competition deal, because there's a lot of small schools out there that couldn't afford to have, 30, the new number is 34, couldn't afford to have 34 scholarship guys playing baseball. So that's why the limit was there. Well, now it's open up. Like, are any of the smaller schools going to ever be able to compete again? And maybe baseball players would rather go start and play at a smaller school than be on bench. Like, I don't know how that works out necessarily, but some of these schools that have kind of made their living off of being able to get players because of the scholarship limitations in their sport, is that going to be gone?
I I don't know. Because remember, while the schools, they can get up to that number of scholarships, they don't have to.
Right.
So I don't know. Like OU baseball, are they going to use all 34, or is it going to be one of these situations where they had 11.7, now Joe Castiglione tells Skip Johnson, "Hey, you've got 20." One interesting question is, how do endowments work and all of this stuff with the scholarships? You've got these colleges that have these massive endowments. Can you take some of the money from there for the scholarship? Like, that's where I'm not smart enough to know all the mechanics of that type of stuff. I, we don't need to go down this rabbit hole right now, but I think the revenue sharing thing is going to be a litigation disaster for the NCAA.
Well,
No one knows how they're going to distribute this revenue sharing. And remember, you only have to adhere to this new roster limit thing if you opt in to revenue share with your athletes. If you
uh,
don't opt in, you kind of, I don't know, just get to do whatever. I don't know.
yeah, if you don't opt in, you opt out of big time sports, basically,
Yeah.
right? You're not
And
going
I
to, it's
think you're
going to
going to
be,
see some schools go, you know what? Maybe we should be out.
yeah. I, it's interesting because the effect that that has on like having a good football team is the best marketing you can have to drive or the like if you have a great baseball or basketball, let's be honest, like Duke would not be Duke if they weren't known for being an unbelievable basketball school. They just wouldn't. It would not be the same school. So like it's the best marketing you can have to drive your enrollment. And enrollment is like the sports are the big money or big money, but the enrollment is why they pour all of the money and effort. It's not just to go have fun and watch sports. It's because for us going to the SEC and winning an SEC championship, what the effect that that would have on enrollment at Oklahoma would be incredible. That's where the real money is. And that's why they do this whole thing.
I think, the old saying, athletics is the front porch of the university. And that's where you look at these new roster limits, and I think it's going to start some very interesting conversations in administrations around the country when it comes to what programs make us money. And I'm not saying what athletic programs operate in the black. That's not what I'm saying. Although there are some football programs, probably some men's basketball programs, but what sports bring more students that will pay tuition to our school? And I think OU softball is the perfect example. I do not know all of the details about OU softball's revenue. I would assume they're either making a little money or losing a little money. But I know this, they make the school money. The success that program has had, and the attention that the University of Oklahoma has
Exposure.
got, the
Yeah.
exposure each and every June when you turn ESPN on and you go, well, there's Patty Gasso, there's OU softball again. All they do is win 4 in a row. That brings more students that end up paying tuition. OU softball, when you look at their balance sheet, and once again, I don't know, but I would say the profit is either minimal or the loss is minimal. But the overall value to the University of Oklahoma is substantial because of the exposure it's created for OU and
Mhm.
because of the branding, because of the reputation. Like, people, when they think Oklahoma, now, of course, they think Oklahoma football, but they go, have you seen their damn softball team? They are a wagon.
Mhm.
And that carries weight around the country. And I just think that's where these conversations are they're going to be really interesting. Like if Patty Gasso, because softball's going from 12 scholarships to 25.
Yeah.
If Patty Gasso comes to Joe Castiglione and goes, I want all 25. Like, what does he say? That's where some of these
Probably
are going to be,
okay.
yeah,
I mean,
probably, yes, ma'am. But I don't know. I think there's just going to be a lot of interesting conversations and administrations around the country with this thing. Ted and I have no clue how it's going to play out.
yeah, I I think it's probably like I would say that the better your program does, the more the more scholarships you're going to get, like right out of the gate. Are you? I mean, I think it's going to be a constant negotiation. You know, if you are representing and doing well, I imagine they're going to fund or want to fund more scholarships. But like if you take a place like Stanford or I mean, some of these schools that are huge into like the Olympic sports and stuff that are a burden, like financially, they are not, you're not making any money off of those programs. I, I don't know that there's going to be a big battle for those scholarships anyway, if that makes, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't get a whole lot of exposure and it's not creating a big incentive for students to come or it's a big marketing arm for your university, like I don't know that there's going to be a big push to like I think equestrian the the scholarship number on equestrian is 50. It was I think it was 3 previously and now full roster for equestrian is 50. I don't know that anyone's going to be funding 50 equestrian scholarships.
Hold on. Be right back. I'm going to go teach my kid to ride a horse so he can go to college for free.
Maybe there's going to be a big boom in equestrian across the country.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating. And then, I mean, we'll talk about it when it happens, but the way that I understand it, they make the revenue sharing sound like, hey, we are going to pay the athletes money right from this revenue share. If I was a college football player, I would go, does anyone deserve money but us? We're the only ones that make revenue.
Well, that's been my question is
And that's where I,
how can you revenue share if your sport doesn't revenue?
and then how does Title IX factor in that? Like, do you have to pay the same number of male athletes as you do female athletes, or is it the same amount? Because if I'm a college football player and let's say, Alabama, I would say pretty big college football brand, right? A lot of value to the school. A women's basketball player is not generating the revenue I am generating if I'm an Alabama football player.
No.
So it doesn't make sense if I'm getting the same thing that she's getting. That's typically not how economics, that's not how capitalism works. But is that how it's going to be? Because if that is how it is, like the lawsuits are just going to roll in, right? Like any college football player that is going to sit there and go, whoa, whoa, whoa. These massive TV deals are because of us. What? And it won't just be, they'll be complaining about every other sport, not just women's athlete. It's like, hey, these baseball guys don't deserve that. We deserve that. We make the money. Like, I think it's going to be a disaster, man. Or maybe I'm missing something.
Well, not my world, but I like this has been all of this stuff with college football. It's like, I mean, someone needs to write a book on unintended consequences out of this, like this last, I don't know, 6 or 7 years of college football. But one of the things that I find interesting is like the whole Title IX thing. What Title IX, how it's being used is has nothing to do with the original Title IX. And if you read it in like its basic form, there's nothing in Title IX that would ever suggest that the revenue brought in, like it's so weird, like the interpretation, which goes down a whole nother, like does the Chevron situation that was pat like the Supreme Court decision, does that have an effect on how Title IX is implemented? I don't know. Like there's like so much legal stuff that's I don't know. I feel like we've gone so far away from the original intention of that. Like I don't know how that could ever hold up to a revenue sharing situation when you don't produce revenue. Like, that to me is like the most basic thing ever. So I don't know how that ever gets interpreted.
We'll see. You know who? I'm going to get our buddy, Bud Elliott, to come on. He's a lawyer, also college football knowledge. Maybe we can yell at him a little bit. We always have fun with Bud, but maybe he can help explain some of this stuff to us. Like, we don't have, we didn't go to law school. Like, we're just trying to understand all this. Maybe he can help us a little bit, Ted, with what this thing may end up looking like and how it may end up functioning.
I know what's
My
wild.
brain hurts just trying to figure out what's going to happen. It like I
There's a butterfly effect on all of these things. Like every every lawsuit, everything that happens, every ruling, like the list of like the damage or whatever you want to call it down collateral damage down the line is wild. And I don't know if I would love to have Bud Elliott on, but at the same time, I don't know if there's anyone out there that has a grasp on, like, there is no one person that understands the deal. It's just a big, giant mess, I feel like.
that's how it feels. All right, let's get to my winner and loser. But first, this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. We all have a lot going on in our lives when your schedule is packed with kids' activities, big work projects. You got a lot more stuff going on. It's easy to let your priorities slip. But when you feel like you have no time for yourself, non negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. That's where BetterHelp comes in. Visit betterhelp.com/OKC to get 10% off your first month on BetterHelp. I started talking with a therapist when I was playing the NFL, was really stressed out, bottom of the roster life, not fun. Therapy really helped me get through that entire process in my career. I'm a big believer in therapy and believe it can help so many people if they just try it. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and go from there. You can even switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Therapy can help you focus on what really matters in your life. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/OKC to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/OKC to get 10% off your first month.
Three things matter in banking: service, service, and service. First Fidelity Bank's commitment to exceptional service is more than a promise, it's their foundation. FFB has been by your side for over a century, and they're honored to be a part of your journey. Banking isn't about where you've been, it's about where you're headed. Open an account at an award winning bank today at ffb.com. At First Fidelity Bank, we go where you go.
And head to opolisclothing.com for our podcast merchandise and the best O-year gear out there. That's OPOLIS clothing.com and use promo code TED, TED for 10% off. That's opolisclothing.com. Use promo code TED for 10% off. Buttery soft and 10% off. My winner of the weekend, Charles Barkley. Let me explain. We've talked a lot about the new NBA rights deal and where TNT stood and was inside the NBA going to survive. TNT came out and said, hey, we have matched Amazon's bid. And with our current contract, that means we are going to be part of the NBA TV rights deal moving forward. And everyone went, yes, inside the NBA is going to stay. We're all good. And then the NBA came out and said, you did not match Amazon's deal and you're out. And now Warner Brothers Discovery, who owns TNT, is suing the NBA, said, yeah, we matched it. And the NBA saying, nuh-uh. And so now we're going to have TNT games this season because the new deal doesn't kick in until next season. But in a very weird way, Ted, this feels like a very good thing for Charles Barkley if he wants to keep working because he's about to come, he's about to become an unrestricted free agent. And I could only imagine what NBC and ESPN and Amazon are going to throw at him, Ted. He said he's talked to all three. No one is more popular in sports commentary than Charles Barkley. And I could only imagine what these companies are going to throw at him and the power that he wields in these negotiations. That's got to be an awesome feeling if you're Charles Barkley.
I know. I, I think one of the one of the great things about that show is I think that, with Shaq and with Barkley and Kenny, it's like all of them could be like totally fine if they didn't do it. And that's like part of it is like it's fun. Let's get together and talk about the game. It has that feeling to it. You go to some other shows and you feel like there's a lot of ambition there about trying to do good and trying to put out a great product. Like they just kind of show up and talk about the game, and it works perfectly. So, um, I, it's going to be interesting to see like how if he wants to keep doing it, and like if he does, like how involved is he going to be? Like, is he going to limit himself a little bit more and start to peel back a little bit? But you're right. With some of the numbers that they are throwing out for TV, like Tom Brady's deal and how much Romo gets paid, I know that's a different sport, but just goes to show that in those boardrooms, at least they've shown that they feel like the people talking about the sport are driving it in a big manner, and having someone on your broadcast like that is well worth it.
He was making 21 million a year from TNT. And remember, that's the NBA stuff. And I assume the March Madness stuff is built into that as well.
Yeah.
So he was already making a boatload, but he's just I mean, there's no one else that's even in the conversation. He's the most valuable personality in basketball. Not even close. So
Which is funny considering everything. It's like, I mean, I don't know like where his expertise exactly lies. I mean, it's interesting. I think he's just enjoyable for oh, every demographic to listen to.
you have to imagine that Amazon is going to throw a massive offer his way. And I think I don't know if all three, right? Because the new NBA deal, it's NBC, ESPN, and Amazon. Clearly, the NBA wants Amazon, that global reach with the streaming stuff. Like it makes all the sense in the world. Their international broadcast rights are about to be up as well. There's a there's a lot of reasons why they chose Amazon over TNT, okay? But if you're Amazon, what would bring more eyeballs for you than the most popular basketball show on television? You try to convince Ernie Johnson, hey, you could work for someone else other than Turner. Or you just say, hey, everything stays the same. All your people, just send it to us and then we just put it on our platform. Everything stays the same. You just work it out if you're Amazon, right? You just keep that show together because that's how people are going to get driven to Prime Video. I think it makes all the sense in the world.
Amazon has so much money. I They could probably just say, "God, just buy Warner Brothers. Forget the lawsuit. Just buy them. We'll simulcast it on. We'll stream it, and we'll put it on our new Amazon television channel." I was like, I don't know. They've got such a stupid amount of cash laying around. It's like they've got to get into this stuff, like to try and generate, like find somewhere to place some of their big cash, the piles of cash that they've got. So yeah, I don't know how it's going to end up. I just I hope that it's not only on streaming. That's my hope.
You are you're not a big fan of the streaming life.
No, it just doesn't work as well for me. That's
I'm
it.
not going to call you old. I'm not going to call you old. Let's just move on. Let's move on to my loser. I'm not going to call you old. I'm not going to do it. But I know this. Charles Barkley, if he wants to continue to work, he going to make a lot of money.
Yep, that's right.
Whole lot. Has all the power. My loser of the weekend, Olympic pain is what
Mm.
I thought was going with. My loser of the weekend is going to be Lincoln Riley. We'll get into everything he said at Big Ten Media Days, but Olympic pain, and this is what I mean, Ted. The Olympics, it's got these awesome moments, right? I've been watching a ton of it, and like watching the U.S. men's soccer team bounce back and play well against New Zealand and score 4 goals, and just watching the joy on those guys' face, and then watching the men's 4x100 swimming relay, watching them win gold, watching Dressel just close that thing out. Like those are these moments that I love watching the Olympics. But dude, there are some painful ones, and it hurts to watch. And I was watching men's gymnastics. Brody Malone, oh my gosh. This is a guy that he had this gnarly leg break in competition, battles all the way back, wins the U.S. championship last month. They're coming in with high expectations, possibly medaling as a team. He's a guy that a lot of people think are going to be in the all around final and have a chance. He's one of the, from what I understand, one of the favorites in the high bar. Like he's one of the best in the world at the high bar. He's got big aspirations to win a medal in that event. And I'm watching it get to the high bar rotation. Dude falls twice. They're showing his family. You can just see the look on his. It is just as high as the high moments are, like watching Americans in the Olympics, like watching that these people prepare for 4 years for these, I mean, minutes, seconds, and watching that guy just, I mean, I'm not going to say he choked, but he just underperformed, hurt his team, hurt his individual aspirations for a medal. Like it was, I kind of forget how brutal that is to watch sometimes. And man, dude, it is just it's heartbreaking to watch when that happens to people.
It is. And there's no avenue really for redemption.
No.
There's some rare exceptions like Simone Biles, like Phelps, who there's some people that are in a bunch of Olympics, but usually you get one shot, maybe two shots at the Olympics, and uh, you can't spread that mistake over a season or oh we'll get them next year. That's it. I mean, that's why it's the ultimate. The stakes are so high. And you're right. They kept showing the family. Was that his
I think it was his fiance.
fiance?
Just like slow tear down the face. My wife and I were sitting there watching it going, oh my gosh, this is so brutal to watch.
It's got to be,
I'm guessing that was his dad next to her.
yeah.
Oh, the pain on
But
his face when he
think
fell. Oh,
about the families.
oh,
You like the amount of tension for a family. Like, because there's nothing you do as a performer and athlete when you're in your element. You're in your element. I mean, you're thinking about it, but I mean, hopefully he wasn't up there thinking about, oh, look, this is the only shot that I'll ever have, like before he goes. But as someone who's just watching, that is exactly what you're thinking. It's like, oh my God, are we really here? And it's all comes down to this like 30-second routine. And if you don't absolutely nail it, the whole thing's over. It's just, you're right, brutal to watch.
loser of the weekend, Lincoln Riley at Big Ten Media Days. Made headlines for multiple reasons. But Ted, really what I want to dive into is not what he said, them playing catch up in all these areas. Like it is what it is. But some of the things that he said about scheduling, I think leads to an interesting conversation. And he was asked about the rivalry game that they play against Notre Dame. And he did. He said he hopes it stays. But he essentially said that them being in the Big Ten now and what their conference schedule is going to look like moving forward and what it's going to look like every year, how challenging it's going to be, that they're going to have to continue to evaluate whether or not that Notre Dame game being on the schedule helps them chase a national title. And he was just being ominous, and he's got a great point. But, dude, I hate that statement so much. I hate it so much. I want to see Notre Dame and USC play every season. we all love traditional rivalry games. We've lost so many of them because of conference realignment. And I also kind of hate that he's probably right. If the ultimate goal for USC is to win a national title, that like, does playing Notre Dame help them now that they're in the Big Ten? I don't know, but it certainly doesn't help this reputation he's developed or is developing, that he kind of likes to run from competition a little bit. So I don't know. There was so much chatter about that statement that he had at Big Ten Media Day, and it got me thinking about what's the future of this thing going to look like when it comes to non-conference games, and him saying that they're going to have to evaluate whether or not it's the best thing for the program. It just made me kind of sad, man. It made me remember that Bedlam's gone, and that sucks. Like I
Yeah. It, it's interesting. Someone needs to grab Lincoln Riley and just shake him and scream, "What are you doing? Shut up!" He needs like a publicist or something. The guy, I don't understand what he's doing. It looks horrible. Like, you just don't have to say it. I understand what he's saying, but just don't say it. Like right now, everything that comes out of his mouth is going to be used against him on the recruiting trail. You don't want to go to USC. They're trying to dodge everyone. You're not going to play any big games. I, I don't know. It's ridiculous. But your point about the Notre Dame game, it is interesting. And the thing I thought about is, if what Lincoln Riley says is true, and I'm inclined to somewhat agree with it, we'll have to see how things shake out. I mean, let's say the Big Ten is trying to get three teams in, and like you're competing to maybe be that third team. A win over Notre Dame in the non-conference is definitely going to help you get in over someone else, all things equal. But if that's not going to be weighted as heavy, that may be the case. And what I was thinking is, well, if USC doesn't want to play Notre Dame, is anyone else? And at what point, and I know they've got some ACC tie-ins, but at what point, with some of their big games that they play every year, if teams become unwilling to play that, are they going to be forced to join a conference?
They love their
People just
independence.
stop scheduling them?
It there would it be let's just be real. It would be hilarious that Lincoln Riley talking about this publicly is actually what gets the ball rolling on Notre Dame having to join the Big Ten, and then the Big Ten makes them play it. It'd
Yeah.
be kind of funny. I mean,
But you know what I'm saying?
no, I hear you. No, it's a good point. I
What
just think that in the USC Notre Dame thing, I do think there are some differences between that game and some of these rivalries we've lost, over the last decade. Like we lost Texas playing Texas A&M because they were in different conferences. It was a conference game, and then they were in different conferences. They did not schedule in the non-conference. Same thing's about to happen with Bedlam, right? USC and Notre Dame have played a non-conference game for forever. So USC being in a different conference, it does not change anything about that game. It's always been a non-conference game. It's going to continue to be a non-conference game. So there are some differences there where you look at it and go, yeah, we've lost some of these games, but hey, you guys can still play this game. You just don't want to play it.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because it's basically like, well, what are you saying? Well, you're saying that you used to be in a much easier conference. All right. Isn't that what you're saying? Like, the conference we were in was so much easier previously. I don't know how long it's been since they won that, but that doesn't matter. You're saying like we're in a more difficult conference now, so we don't want to play as many difficult non-conference games. It's just like I I don't know. It's just it's a weird thing to say.
I
I don't know that you. You
It's a
should be saying it out there.
it's a weird thing to say publicly.
On the heels of the LSU and Ole Miss deal.
I I think there are a lot of coaches, especially in the Big Ten and the SEC, that are saying similar things to what Lincoln Riley said, but they're saying it behind closed doors to their athletic directors.
Yeah.
They're not saying it publicly. And that's the difference here because I do think that there are coaches out there going, "Hey, can you guys just give me some layups?" I mean, you heard Deion Sanders talk about it at Big 12 Media Day. What, they've got North Dakota State out of the gate. He's like, "Why the hell are we playing this game?" Which I think there's quite a few coaches that feel that way, and that's what Lincoln Riley was saying. But I don't know, just all of the things that have happened over the last several months, he's just not helping his case.
No.
And
I,
he brings up Alabama's non-conference scheduling through their run of dominance with Saban. He was like, they scheduled the occasional big non-com game, but he was like, they didn't schedule for the fans. They scheduled to win championships. You're kind of omitting the part where they had unbelievable players and the best coach of all time leading them. It wasn't just that they didn't play the most robust non-conference schedule. How about having the greatest coach ever, a tremendous evaluation and development system, an insane amount of talent on both sides of the football, complete buy-in from the administration in the school. Like, it's not just the schedule, Lincoln. Like, what are you talking about?
and the way you look at a schedule is totally different. For example, we were talking with Neil Brown about how difficult West Virginia's schedule is. Well, it is difficult. But if Georgia was playing West Virginia's schedule, we probably wouldn't talk about how brutal it is, right? So when you're the number one team in the country for 15 years, your schedule is viewed that way
Your
as the number one
schedule's
team.
your schedule's easy because you have better players than everyone else. You've
Yeah,
got five-star freaks at every position.
you never play anyone better than you because there's not anyone better than you. So, and I wonder what USC fans think of the Notre Dame game. Like, is that a big tradition for them? Is it something that they like really hang their hat on? Same thing with Notre Dame fans, because I could see Lincoln Riley. How long has USC played Notre Dame? Do you have any idea?
A very long time. I've got no idea though.
I could see Lincoln Riley coming in. This is going to be his third year there, pounding the table about not playing Notre Dame. They get rid of the Notre Dame game. He convinces everyone it's a bad idea, has one good year, and then goes and takes the Chargers job. And it's
The
like, hang on a
rivalry
second.
began in 1926.
There you
The
go.
rivalry game has been played every year from 1926 to the present, with exception of a break during World War II and then 2020 because of COVID.
It's 100-year rivalry. And like I said, I could see him like fighting to get it dropped. They drop it, and then he takes the next better job that he can get. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
it's crazy.
USC fans just can't. They can't love how this feels, right?
He sucks. I'm telling you, he is the worst like public image in like what he's saying. The stupid smoke brisket thing, just own it. Just own it and say it was dry as hell. I'm thinking about coming out with the jerky that we're going to sell. Just own it and move on. Why fight that stupid ass battle for 10 years to where it keeps getting brought up? You know what I'm saying? It's like he is must be like the ego is so big he can't see it from any other angle. It's fascinating.
Last thing on this, hearing, you know, one of the coaches at a blue blood program, USC is a blue blood program, talk about this, it gets you thinking about what the future of non-conference games is going to be like. And this is what I believe to my core. The 12-team playoff, I think, is a good thing. More access. You heard Neil Brown talk about it. More access creates more energy, more programs across the country. We have to find a way to incentivize teams to continue to play big marquee non-conference games because all the TV networks want to put them on. All the fans want to watch them. And I know money always talks in these situations, but and maybe that's how you do it. Maybe you carve out, bonuses in the TV deal if you play these big games for teams. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to figure it out, but I know I don't want big time non-conference games to go away because these teams are so worried about how brutal their conference schedule is year in and year out. I don't think anyone wants to see all those games go away. Yeah, we want to see our teams win. There's no doubt, but those big time non-conference games are fun. They're special. Let's figure out a way to make sure they keep happening. And if you incentivize schools, programs to continue to play them, I don't know what those incentives look like, but if you do it, they'll play them. Just got to figure it out,
Yeah.
I think.
I I've long advocated for um like crossover games. Like I think the Big Ten champion should play the SEC champion the first game of the season the next year and decide where you want to play it and kind of like run it down from there. The Big 12 champion plays the ACC champion first game of the year in a non-conference game. Figure out where you want to play it every year and then kind of run it down. Second place plays second place to where you get a big crossover that is equal. It may not be perfectly equal, right? Because you graduated guys and maybe the Big 12 champion won the national championship and the ACC champion had two losses or three losses and barely made the playoff. Like it's not necessarily equal, but like whenever you know that stuff is built in and you know you're going to get good non-conference crossover games because people want to see them. And I think like if you do it to where there's like a method to the madness instead of some people schedule tough ones, some people don't. I think if you just like agree to do it like one or two weekends, I think it can be honestly beneficial for everybody.
It's interesting.